So there you heard it, viewers. That was former Army Chief General Naravne giving his first exclusive interview to Times Now since the memoir controversy, where he cleared the air and also took on Rahul Gandhi head-on. Without naming the Congress leader, General Naravne reveals what actually transpired during the Galwan crisis in 2020 and the discussions between the armed forces and the political establishment. General Naravne reveals that he was given a free hand against China, but that does not in any way mean that he was isolated by his political bosses. Further, he says that some are only trying to drag the armed forces into a political quagmire, and further also questioned how Rahul had even had access to the unpublished memoir in the first place. He says the copy was either leaked or accessed by hacking. Now, countering the opposition's argument, he has further said that a pre-order does not mean the book is published, and it is only done to gauge the level of the public's interest. However, even today, politics continues to rage on this controversy. Opposition's asking why then is the government still holding back the book and not allowing its publication. They also say that General Naravne has not clarified on Rahul Gandhi's accusation. The BJP, on the other hand, says this is the biggest possible fact check for the opposition that repeatedly accused the Prime Minister of quote-unquote compromise.
This is an established fact. One, that he did write the book. Two, he did not say, he has not written what Rahul Ji presented in the Lok Sabha or in the media, that the Prime Minister said that do what you think is best.
He's pointing out that allegations were made by no less than the leader of opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. He's coming on record to say that just because you have a pre-order, it does not mean the book is published. And in it lies an important message that someone holding high political office or a responsibility in the political world must do their homework carefully before they start dragging our armed forces into controversy.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And for more of this, let's go right across to our guest. Joining us, Shahzad Poonawala, BJP's national spokesperson, is with us. Sushant Sareen is senior fellow at the ORF. We also have Nikhil Jain, political analyst. Advocate Kapil Madan, political analyst, also joins us. Let me start with you first. Kapil Madan, I don't know if you've seen the entire interview of General Naravne, but, a couple of points that he's made very, very clear. While Rahul Gandhi had insisted that and he had waived that book, General Naravne says that not only was it not published, he also says if anybody has access to it, it's in an unauthorized manner, and that's a book copy that he himself has not seen, raising serious questions of where Mr. Gandhi got the copy from.
So, Madhav, why don't, the government then releases the book and, you compare it with what was shown by Mr. Gandhi to find out whether the book that was displayed by Mr. Gandhi is actually the same or not, whether the content is same or not. Because what Mr. Naravane, what I saw from the report, he's not saying whether, what was said by the opposition vis-a-vis the content of the book was factually incorrect, whatever, because they were quoting from the book. All what they say is, and the narrative which is going in the media is that the book has been released unauthorizedly, or it was not released, it was leaked, etc. There was an unauthorized access. You may have an action. Now the evidence does not become or loses its significance just because, it is not coming from the right source. If there is an issue, of national importance, if there is an issue of our national security, and if the opposition has flagged it, why don't you discuss it? Why don't you display it? And what stops the government if they are very clear, the book has nothing, and this is a baseless narrative being led by the opposition? Why don't you release it?
Okay.
Why don't you have a debate on it?
Shahzad, respond to him. He says that if there is nothing sensitive in this book, if there is nothing controversial, then release the book. As General Naravne has said that he has also used a lot of public records and media reports to refresh his memory, and there's nothing new in what he has actually put out in that book. Shahzad.
Madhav, while growing up, you and I both must have read about the story of Pinocchio. In modern day politics, Rahul Gandhi is Pinocchio. He's the leader of propaganda LOP. And last time he had said a truth, I don't remember when, he lied about Rafale, he lied about Pegasus, he lied about Hindenburg, he lied about economy being dead. But now, when the publisher and the author Both are saying that the book is not published. I have to prove to Kapil Madan that the book's contents are different from the contents Rahul Gandhi is speaking about. I am glad Mr. Madan is not my lawyer. He would have gotten the witness convicted if he defends the case like this. But let me say three things that Mr. Naravane, General Naravane, has said to you in your interview, Madhav, and I congratulate you for that, and three specific points. Madhav asked Mr. Naravane, has the book been published? Mr. Naravane says, no, the book has not been published. Author and publisher both have said. Madhav asked Mr. Naravane, has India lost 1,000 square kilometers of land to China as has been claimed by Rahul Gandhi? Mr. Naravane tells Mr. Madhav that no, we in fact gave a befitting response to China, not an inch of land was lost. Madhav asked in the behest of Rahul Gandhi that uchit lage wo karo means that did you get no support from the government? That's what Rahul Gandhi claimed. Mr. Naravane tells Madhav that look, this means that the government gave us full political support. It gave us a free hand. Now a government which did nothing after 26/11, stopped the armed forces from taking action on Pakistan, sat and came under pressure in terror attack after terror attack, denied our Jawans OROP, doubted Balakot, surgical strike and Operation Sindoor, is now once again trying to create a situation where the Sena is put under the dock and is made to feel as if it surrendered. I just have one question for Mr. Kapil Madan. Kapil Madan, did we do a surgical strike in 2016? Because Rahul Gandhi says it is Khoon ki dalali. DGMO said that we did a great surgical strike. Which version do you believe?
Right, and in fact, one of the questions was phrased slightly different from me, but more or less in terms of what you've quoted, that is more or less correct. And there is one very important point that has to be said. Before I go across to Nikhil, Kapil, you can answer this question because, Rahul Gandhi projects this as a great failure of governance, as a great failure of decision making, as though Mr. Naravne was totally abandoned by the leadership. But he says that's not the case. It might have taken them a few hours to actually arrive at a decision, but they were constantly talking. He has completely denied that there was any failure. He says that he was empowered to take a decision.
So, Madhav, let me just, ask a question here. When the book was quoted, when the issue was raised in the parliament, why was that Mr. Naravane never spoke about it? Is he a member of parliament? True? No, hold on. What I understand right now is the book is still under considerations. The ministry has still not released the book. Has Mr. Naravane clarified here that what was initially submitted for publication and now which is pending, he has not made any alterations.
So without the defense ministry's clearance, you want him to say that?
I am being very candid. I am asking a very simple question. Have you asked a question? The book which was originally published, given for publication or for an approval, and the book which is now under, have you made any changes in this entire span of time? Have you asked a question?
No, it's not for the author to say that, sir. It is for the government to give a clearance. He has given a 1 second. Kapil, let me set the record straight because, one second, let me set the record straight because clearly you have not seen the interview that I've done. Just allow me now because you cannot misquote facts. Let me just quickly bring out what Mr. Naravne has said on this issue, on the very issue that you are choosing to address. He says, I submitted a manuscript to the publisher. The publisher then took it to the Ministry of Defense. So where is the question of two versions of this? Until that manuscript is cleared by the government, how can he comment on it? That's his point of view.
Now, Madhav, I'll make a very, very small and I'll be very precise in what I say. My question is very simple. You are not disputing. Mr. Naravane is not disputing the book which was there, which was carried in the parliament, was the correct book. There was no misquote quote in that book.
But he's saying there is no book. He's saying there is no book.
No, hold on.
He's saying I have not seen such a book.
There is no book.
I am sorry. What he said that, the book was maybe, leaked, etc. But he's not disputing the contents of that book. And that perhaps that's the reason why he would have made a statement there. Now, this is in fact, this is not even the BJP's claim that what was being shown at that point in time is not the correct book. The book says something else.
Okay.
This is not even the case.
Okay. Quick response from Shahzad, then I go across to other panelists. Shahzad.
With due respect to Mr. Sareen, who knows much more about these issues than any of us sitting on the panel, just 20 seconds, borrowing from Mr. Sareen, just 20 seconds. There is no book. Rahul Gandhi lied that he has a published book which both publisher and author denied. Now forget what the so-called contents are. The author is saying that Rahul Gandhi's three narratives, book published, land lost to China, and we had not given political support to army. All three are absolutely false. Rahul Gandhi has lied about armed forces, saying that Arunachal mein pitai hui. Supreme Court said no Indian speaks like this. Yet Mr. Kapil Madan defends this man with the most shady track record on the armed forces.
Right, and you know, once again, please let others come in. Now, let others come in. Let others also have their say, just one by one. Please, you can come in later in the debate. But Sushant, I want to ask you this question. You know, this repeatedly, we've seen a lot of controversy surrounding our armed forces. Rahul Gandhi has made a number of comments. I don't want to get into the specifics of this. But it's actually a very sad sight to see when a former army chief says that I wish my book was not, you know, the subject of a political debate in parliament, because, you know, somewhere or the other, the only difference between India and our neighboring countries is that we have a professional armed force, and it should not be dragged into politics in this particular manner.
But Madhav, look, if you don't want to be dragged into politics, then don't write anything, right? The fact of the matter is that in India, everything will be politicized. And for anybody to say that, look, I don't want anything to be politicized, that's a mug's game. It's not going to happen. Something will be politicized. Even if what is being politicized is twisted out of context, you attach motives to it, you attach, meaning to things, take it out of context. That's part and parcel of politics. I think where I have a problem with the government is that, one, this controversy has just baited the government, because the first time the extracts came out, they came out from a bona fide journalist almost 2 years back. Then a person who's very close to the Congress party, who's seen as a apparatchik of the Congress party, and I don't think anybody denies it, came out with the same extracts again. I think that was last year. And then it became a big controversy, and maybe it was designed to become a controversy, which was completely unnecessary, because even if I was to accept the argument that, look, and where I disagree with my friend Shehzad is that there has a book been, the book has not been brought into the market, but the book has been printed, which is why the first extracts came out 2 years back, which are exactly the same as the extracts which came out last year. No difference at all. And there was no change in it, to answer Mr. Madan's query. The thing is that what was produced, I don't see why the government shies away from it. It doesn't make the government look bad. It does not mean that the government was indecisive. It means that the government, and that is the way I read it, it means that the government had given full authority to the armed forces, because you cannot be deciding the nitty-gritty that you can fire 2 shots, don't fire 4 shots, fire a cannonball over, not under, stuff like that. And for anybody who knows what has happened on the LOC, for example, with Pakistan in the past, there was a time when there was cross-border firing, cross-LOC firing. The hands of the armed forces used to be tied. There were limits to what they could fire, the caliber they could fire, stuff like that. Later on, free hand was given to them. But you can't expect somebody to be sitting in Delhi, especially a politician who is not a military man, to actually tell you the nitty-gritty of what your military strategy and military tactics should be. Right. Which is why you finally come across a very, very tense situation. You tell your army chief, do whatever you think is necessary. You know what you need to do.
So you've empowered the army chief, who's a technical expert. That's what you're essentially saying. The government has empowered the army chief. So let me put that question before goes to Nikhil. Shehzad, I want Shehzad, but please, Kapil, please, there's at least one panelist who's not spoken, and that's a question that he's posed for Shehzad actually. And Shehzad, you need to answer that question simply because, you know, there are a number of experts who opine that if the government does not come out looking bad in terms of having empowered the technical knowledge, or the person who has the technical knowledge, that is of course the army chief in that particular domain, then why should the government not allow the book to be published? Or you couldn't redact what is sensitive and allow the rest of it to be published?
With all due respect to Sushant ji, not once did I sound apologetic or actually circumspect about the so-called contents which have come out through various sources in various publications on this so-called book. In fact, on the other hand, I have used the author's interpretation, which is an authentic interpretation, because he was the army chief. He's the best expert, and I've bolstered my argument that compared to what you did in 2016, Congress did in 2011, here is a government which says, Jo uchit lage, whatever you think is the best for the Indian national security, go ahead and do it. So far from it, I am not apologetic or actually on the back foot, but I am saying that given the fact that I have not seen a physical copy of the book, therefore I have to rely on versions. And therefore I will not go by the versions, I will go by the army chief statement. The ex-army chief, who's the author, has given a particular statement. I will go by that. But now I am asking the leader of opposition that you said you have a copy of the book. The army chief says there's no copy. You say 1,000 kilometers was lost. Army chief says not an inch was lost. You say that army chief was not given the political backing. He says he was given. So should I believe leader of opposition who's known to lie about armed forces, or should I believe former army chief? I will tend to believe former army chief. I will never believe this Pinocchio who says कि army की पिटाई हुई, who goes and has Hakka noodles with the Chinese during Doklam, whose family has betrayed the armed forces in every instance, including OROP, National War Memorial, even bulletproof jackets, and they stopped Kargil Vijay Divas for 5 years. This is the government which did not commemorate Kargil Vijay Divas. 5 years.
Okay, Nikhil Jain, the past track record, would force me to believe, says Shehzad Poonawala, what the army chief says. And given that he's the author of the book, his word should be final, not what Rahul Gandhi says. Respond.
First of all, Madhav, I'd like to register my protest about the BJP spokesperson making personal remarks against other panelists. I think that is not done, number one. Number two, the copy of the book, even though technically it may not have been available as a printed hard copy in public domain, the copy of the book is available in public. You already have it on your WhatsApp. I already have a copy. Many of us have a copy. You can reach page 295. You can read how General Naravne has actually narrated the incidents, that I was really worried, that I was given a hot potato, that my earlier orders were not to fire. I was waiting for 2.5 hours. These are things that have been written in his manuscript, and all the times the leader of opposition or other media outlets have raised these points in public domain. Not once has General
Nikhil,
Naravne
may I ask
come
you,
out
why
and
is that
said
an issue of concern for you?
Are a lie.
Why is that an issue of concern, that narrative, that episode? Why is it an issue of concern? It's because the government abdicated its responsibilities, what Rahul Gandhi has said.
It is an issue.
Mr. Naravne says there is no such abdication.
I'll tell you why. Because that is how General Naravane is actually narrating it. That is exactly how he's narrating it.
And now he's denying it as well.
On the evening of 31st August, Joe rang me up, quite worried. He reported that 4 tanks supported by infantry had slowly started moving the track towards Rechinla. I had clear orders not to open fire till cleared from the very top. The orders of the government of India to the army chief were not to fire till the Prime Minister clears it. And for 2.5 hours, the army chief could not get the permission from the Prime Minister to clear it, and even the permission that he gets is Jo uchit lage kar lo. He goes on later to narrate how he...
So that is empowering the army chief to take a decision. He says that we were in discussion, and it was, if it's a decision that has empowered him to take an action, what is wrong? If he's a domain expert and he's given the empowerment to take a decision, what is the wrongdoing there?
The decision comes after 2.5 hours. I'll tell you 2 points. Number one, 2.5 hours delay. You can't do that when tanks are rolling up to critical areas. Number
Why
two,
not?
Your earlier orders were...
You want to declare war with China in a matter of 2 minutes. This is not Maggie noodles. We're talking about possible war with a country.
That's what the government of India did.
Let Sushant come in on this. Sushant, 2 hours is way too long for us to take a decision when it comes to tanks rolling up from China's side. Please respond to Nikhil Jain.
No, because listen, from the government's point of view, the idea was that do you want to wage a full-fledged war? Because, a skirmish in which firing, and frankly, there was until then no firing on the LAC for I don't know how many, a couple of decades at least, right? At least not in the eastern Ladakh sector, from whatever we have learned. But you were now faced with a situation where the Chinese were moving into territory which you did not want them to move into. You were holding them off. You saw their tanks coming up. Your own tanks were placed already out there. So the point is that if the firing match had started, and which is why the government had initially given orders that please don't fire without taking clearance. Now, when the government tells the army chief, please do whatever you think is necessary, it is not saying do everything which is necessary, but don't fire. The mandate given to the army chief and the army commanders out there was that whatever you think is required to stop the Chinese from advancing beyond the point till which they can advance, you do whatever the hell you need to do. After that, the consequences we will bear. But the idea was that you cannot tell, what do you expect somebody to say? Okay, the Chinese are moving forward, start firing shells at them. Did you want those orders to be given? Or did you want orders to be given? Don't do anything.
Nikhil Jain, if you've read that article, if I can just comment on this, Sushant. Nikhil, if you've read that article, General Naravne himself says how medium-level tanks were sent forward, and because there were light tanks coming in from China's side, there were no match for those medium tanks, they stopped advancing. So if the issue was diffused, where is the question of any crisis or indecision?
Madhav, right now I'm actually reading from the manuscript of the book, page 295. The last line reads, "We were ready in all respects, but did I really want to start a war? The country was in bad shape, reeling under the COVID pandemic. The economy was faltering, global supply chains had broken down. Would we be able to ensure a steady supply of spares, etc. under these conditions in case of a long drawn-out action? Who were our supporters in the global arena, and what about the collusive threat from China and Pakistan?" Now, please tell me, how is the army chief equipped to decide on these decisions? Is it not the job of the foreign minister, the prime minister, the national security advisor,
So they
the
took
home minister?
2 hours and they arrived at a decision. All right, quick response. Shahzad, out of time completely. 30-second response, please.
Madhav, I hope I won't be interrupted. Here is a party which after 26/11 overruled Fali Major, told Fali Major, do not act on Pakistani terror camps. Chidambaram came out and said that because Condoleezza Rice put pressure, we did not take action. Here is a party which went abroad and told Pakistan is a victim of terror, which gave clean chit to Pakistan on Samjhauta and many other terror cases. Here is a party which did not take any action, in fact wanted to parcel off Siachen. Here is a party which gave up Aksai Chin, never took any action on the incursions that took place prior to 2014, is lecturing a party which actually took action in Galwan, which took action in Doklam, and is saying 2.5 years long. So what did you do after 26/11, sir? And secondly, please, if you have this manuscript, why did Rahul Gandhi keep it in Parliament?
Huge implications. There are many questions. In fact, this is subject of a much larger debate. But I think the fact that General Naravne, who's the author of the book today, has spoken on record, I think we have to give him some credence as to his own interpretation, because he says things can be interpreted in any way. This is my version of things, and he's laid it bare on the table. We leave it to our viewers to judge what really has happened. But I'd like to thank Shahzad Poonawalla, Sushant Sareen, Nikhil Jain, and Advocate Kapil Madan for joining us this evening.